Hi, stolen cousins. Okay, so part two of a horror Valentine's Day edition. Yes, horror story Valentine's Day edition. If you haven't already, go watch part one. I'm like, should I just link them back and forth? But then I don't know because then it'll be like a loop. But I have the playlist there as well, so I might tag it. Who knows? But let's get right into it. Let's see what this is hitting on.
When I was younger, Valentine's Day used to be my favorite date of the year.
Mm,
My
love
girlfriend and I
this.
had been dating for over 3 years, and things were going great. This year, I had a lot of plans for Valentine's Day, but something would come between me and my girlfriend.
Oh no.
It started 2 days before Valentine's Day. Samantha hadn't answered my messages all day, which I thought was weird. I was about to go to her house, but suddenly she answered me. She told me she overslept, so she didn't go to work either. I offered to go see her, but she said no. Let's meet directly on Valentine's Day. At first, her messages seemed strange to me. They had a lot of spelling mistakes, which was unnatural for her. But I assumed she had just woken up, and she told me a few days before her cell phone was not working the best way. The next day went by pretty fast. I spent the day working, and Sam responded to me at very random times. She was acting weird. Did something happen to her? I decided not to insist too much, since the next day I would go to see her in the morning. When the sun came up, I got ready as I could finally see her. I put on the best perfume I had, bought her flowers and chocolates, and with a smile, I went to her house. No matter what was happening to Samantha, this day was going to be sensational. As I was arriving at her house, I received a message from Samantha. The message said that she was going to take a shower and that she left the front door open. I was surprised at how reckless she was, but I just went along with it. As
Like
I
3
entered the
years in, it's
house,
not that
I saw
weird,
that the
but it's also
bathroom door
like,
was
what?
closed and there was a noise coming from behind it into the shower, so I sat down to wait for her. Suddenly, the door opened and steam came out of the bathroom, but instead of meeting my girlfriend, someone else appeared.
Oh, hell
A
no.
white, scrawny, and very tall man came out of the bathroom wearing my girlfriend's underwear.
Where's Samantha?
But the worst thing, what surprised me the most, was his face. That wasn't his face.
No.
He had pieces of skin stuck all over his face. It was probably sealed with a very strong glue, since the man walked with extreme tranquility without the skin falling off. Not only was the skin glued, but also the hair.
No.
But I recognized that golden hair. That was Samantha's hair.
Where the hell is she?
Who are you? Where's Samantha?
What are you saying, Roy? I am Samantha. Can't you see my face? Don't you like me anymore?
My first impulse was to run as fast as I could to the door, but it wasn't going to happen. This man was a little closer, so at a great speed he arrived first, and with his body he covered the door.
Ew.
Hey, my love, have you forgotten yourself at home? Why are you so upset?
You psycho! Where is Sam?
Enraged, it seems that the man didn't like my comment. So furious, he jumped at me and grabbed my head with his two huge hands, shouting at me, face to face.
What part don't you understand
I knew
that
this
I
was
am
coming.
Sam?
You should've
Have you
just played
forgotten
along.
about me? Did you hit your head coming in? You know what? I'd kill you for questioning your girlfriend, but I'll spare your life for now, just because you brought me my favorite chocolates. Stay here while I change, honey. I'll be back in a while.
When the man closed the door and left me in the dark, before I could get up to turn on the light, I felt something strange next to me,
No.
like wet.
Oh my
Suddenly,
God.
a horrible smell came up my nose.
It's
It was
Samantha.
disgusting. I felt like I was going to vomit at any moment. I held my nose, and in desperation, I went to turn on the light in the basement. On the way,
Don't do it.
I felt many insects hitting my face. I knew what this meant, but I didn't want to assume it, so I wanted to avoid it as much as possible.
It's true.
When I turned on the light, I couldn't avoid reality for another second.
Oh my God.
That was Samantha's body. The body was decomposing. Around Sam, flies seemed to be feasting. As if it wasn't enough, many parts of her face and body were disfigured or skinless. What that psycho was wearing on his face was really Samantha's face. I fell to my knees on the floor, and almost ignoring the disgusting smell that didn't let me breathe, I cried as hard as I could. After a few seconds of wailing, I tried to open the door as hard as I could.
That's his baby.
I was always a small man. Strength was never my thing, and even at that moment, I felt totally useless. I was facing a simple wooden door, crying, while a man was putting on my girlfriend's clothes, who was already behind me, decomposing.
It's crazy.
I felt pathetic, and I was. From one second to the next, the door opened, but not because I forced it, but because the man had returned.
I'm back, honey.
You!
Ahead of me, knocking me down with absurd ease, the man who killed my girlfriend was standing in front of me.
That's crazy.
That man was wearing Samantha's favorite skirt with a black top that he couldn't even finish zipping up.
Hey, I understand that you're very upset, but let me explain what happened. This man came into my house and tried to kill me. He told me he was watching you on the street, always dreaming of being your partner. Can you believe it? He came with the intention of killing me and pretending to be me. What a psycho.
Oh
Furious,
my God.
I stood up and lunged at him again. But again, it was pointless. The man grabbed me by the neck before I could hit him, and with one hand he lifted me up, only to throw me against Sam's corpse.
Hey, honey, you shouldn't be so upset. I wasn't going to let this man come between us. I killed him as soon as I saw him. You should have heard how he screamed. It was delicious. His screams still sound in my head. What an exquisite melody.
Oh.
I assure you, he suffered a lot before he died. You see, honey, I couldn't pass up an exquisite sound like that. So before I killed him, I tortured him. I made sure he survived until the last second he could feel pain. Anyway, honey, are we going to a nice restaurant?
Ah!
I had made it. I had escaped. I ran to the door, crying and preparing to tell the police everything. But something in me was wrong. All my fear, helplessness, and sadness turned into hatred. Pure hatred towards the monster that had taken away the most important thing in my life. Instead of running away, I turned to him. He was still alive, and confused, he spoke to me.
My love, I don't feel good. I think you hurt me.
You are not my love. You are not Samantha. You took her from me. She's never coming back because of you.
When I finished, I just fell on the floor and started crying, in shock because of everything that had happened. When the police came, I was arrested for double homicide, but after the truth came out, I was released. After that, I could never be in a couple again. I never felt I could open my heart to someone else and experience anything like that again.
No, that's crazy.
Every Valentine's Day is torture. Torture where in my nightmares I relive everything that happened that day. I recently started therapy. I hope someday to be able to heal, but in the meantime, I spend Valentine's Day locked up and alone, trying to face my memories.
Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. If so, please leave a like.
That
And
was
also,
crazy.
a small percentage of people that watch my videos are actually subscribed. If you want to support this channel and make this channel reach the 1 million mark, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can change your mind later. Enjoy.
There was nothing special about that night, except for the fact that it was Valentine's Day, and I wanted to take Julia out for dinner. It's been weeks since we have spoken to each other properly. She has changed since our daughter Dorothy died in an accident. You see, the loss has affected her differently. The way she is coping with this loss will surely destroy what is left of our marriage. Ever since the day our daughter died, she's been detached from reality. I suppose in a way, we all were, but my wife was different. She couldn't, or wouldn't come to terms with the fact that Dorothy was gone. Julia didn't sit in her bed crying for hours, nor did she spend every waking moment surrounded by photo albums or Dorothy's clothes. She didn't cry at all when the cops called to inform us that Dorothy was run over by a pickup truck while hitchhiking to a rock concert.
Oh my God.
Julia and I cremated our daughter. Yes, Julia insisted on it. I wish I never agreed. Now, she carries the urn around. She talked to it as if it was a real person.
Comfortable?
She murmured as she strapped it into the baby seat of our car just the other week. I watched her through the rearview mirror, and my skin crawled. Needless to say, after that I stopped going out with my wife. I could see people talking about her everywhere we went. They would point her out silently and whisper among themselves.
Grieving.
I used to feel bad for my wife, but now this routine is getting on my nerves. I am heartbroken and exhausted pretending our daughter is alive. So that night, I decided to put a stop to this. I ordered food and set the table in Valentine's theme. When Julia came downstairs and noticed all the red balloons and heart-shaped candles, I saw her eyes dazzle up. After all these gloomy days, I finally felt my wife noticing me.
Did you do this all by yourself?
Yep. Happy Valentine's Day, dear.
I went close to her. She was holding the urn to her chest. I said in a soft voice,
I know, Julia. We're going through a tough phase and you're in no mood to celebrate, but we need to live. Dorothy would have wanted us to celebrate tonight. Let's sit down and have a proper dinner, okay?
She gave me a surprised look, like I've said something weird.
Is it okay if Dorothy eats with us too?
God, Julia, please, let's not do this tonight.
Do what?
At this point, I was secretly hoping that tonight will be the night when things go back to normal.
How will Dorothy eat with us?
I asked, and the tiring, sad voice repeated.
He's about to get crazy.
For a moment, the room was enveloped in stunned silence. Then Julia spoke.
Like she does every other night.
She sat down on the table and put the urn right next to her dinner plate. Just think about it. Candles were lit. Valentine's Day dinner it was, and I was sitting with my wife and the ashes of my dead daughter at the same table. But still, I kept calm. At least she has agreed to eat dinner at the table and not in her room after days. It still progresses. Slowly, she will accept. It takes time to heal, I know that. But then she started talking to the urn.
Look how romantic Daddy is, Dorothy.
Girl, I'm trying.
He is glad that you could join us. I'll set up a
But
plate
you
for you.
pissing him off.
Wait,
Julia, please. You don't have to go through this every night.
pass me the mashed potato. Dorothy wants some.
As she started cutting the steak,
Okay.
disregarding that I existed, I finally lost it.
Why can't you just talk to me, huh? Dorothy is dead. We lost our daughter to a car crash, Julia. Accept it. She's dead. Stop this insanity. It's hurting both of us. This is not healthy. Why can't you see that?
Caught in a fit of rage, I grasped the tablecloth and pulled it towards me, sending the dishes crashing to the floor.
In the urn.
Dorothy's urn, sitting atop one of the plates, succumbed to the same fate. It fell on the hard concrete and shattered.
Dory!
My wife screamed, leaping to her feet and dashing around the dining table.
No, baby, no!
Tears rolled down my eyes, realizing what damage I had done. Amidst the porcelain shards and utensils, the urn lay cracked in half, its lid nowhere to be found. Dorothy's ashes were scattered in those broken pieces. Julia landed knees first on the shards, the porcelain crunching under her weight. Nothing could have prepared me for what she did next. I watched in horror as my frantic wife snatched one half of the urn and stuck her tongue out to lick it, her fingers desperately searching for the remains left on the floor. She swept her hands across the ground, cutting her skin up in the process, and shoved the whole lot in her mouth, her eyes rolling back inside her head. I wanted to vomit.
I would have.
I wanted to run. My
You
heart was
should've.
pounding at 10 times its normal rate, threatening to leap out of my throat. My skin was clammy and my vision blurred, but not enough to stop me from seeing the monster that was my wife,
Ugh.
stuffing ashes, blood, and porcelain shards down her throat.
Julia?
She slowly turned her head towards me, and a sick smile appeared on her face. Her bleeding mouth with ashes smearing on her white teeth gave me chills.
She will be with me now, forever.
Oh, poor Julia.
And went back to doing what she was doing. I ran to her and tried
She's
my
gonna
best to
slice
pull
you.
her away.
Be careful.
She kicked in the air and screamed.
No, baby! Don't be scared. Mommy's here.
I pleaded with Julia to stop this madness, but she didn't. I somehow dragged her away and locked her in our bedroom. She kept banging on the door until the paramedics arrived.
Insane asylum.
It's been
Yeah.
3 years now since Julia has been put in a mental institution. Every Valentine's Day, I go to visit my wife with a bouquet of red roses. I will go this year as well, but I know she won't talk to me. She only talks to herself now. The doctor says she sometimes imitates Dorothy's voice and pretends to be her own daughter, as if she has these dual personalities. She has completely lost it, and I know I'm not getting my family back. So, if you have someone special to spend your Valentine's Day with, you better make it memorable for them.
That's
Life
so
has never
sad.
been kind to the hearts filled with love.
Mm.
My name is Emily. I'm 26 years old, and I hate Valentine's Day. I know,
Okay,
I
Emily.
know. What's not to love about a day dedicated to love and romance? But for me, it's sort of a reminder that I'm alone, and I'm genuinely too scared to ever be with anyone again.
Dang,
I've
what
been
happened?
single for years now, ever since my Valentine's Day ended in what can only be described as an experience that will make your skin crawl. It was my second year of college. I was young and naive, and honestly, I just wanted somebody to spend the day with. I had just broken up with my boyfriend of several months, and I was really feeling down about it. As I walked to class, one of my friends came up to me and handed me her phone. She had something to show me.
What's this? It's a new dating app. I just
No.
signed up for it, and I've already got a date for Valentine's Day. Girl, you better as well.
I took the phone and looked at it. I don't remember for sure what the app was called, but I know it wasn't one of the mainstream ones. I think it was some off-brand dating app. Well,
We don't need
I
it.
thought about
Obviously,
it for a few
it's not
minutes
good.
and then decided to download it. I figured, what could it hurt? Sitting in classes
said it
all
was
day,
rubbish. You
I began to get
think
rather
about that?
excited about the prospect of going on a date with
I
someone
could've
new.
sworn I seen
As Valentine's Day
One
neared,
Punch Man in
I
there.
matched with a guy who seemed really nice. We talked for a few days, and then we decided to meet up. He told me he would pick me up from my dorm at 7 p.m. Let me stress, this guy had like no red flags. I had no reason to believe that he wasn't perfect. Okay, so his pictures were a bit hot, but I figured he was just trying to show off his best side, you know? Still, our chats had barely a dull moment, and as we continued to talk, I couldn't help but think that I had finally found someone who I could connect with. I liked funny cat videos, and he had an adorable one of his own. He liked hiking, and I love nature. It seemed like we were a match made in heaven. So, when he came
You love cats. He got a cat. You love nature. He loves hiking. Like, obviously, sometimes it does work like that, but on a dating site when you've never seen someone face to face, you don't know them, please start to be, a little cautious, a little aware that sometimes people might be lying if they just pick up all your interest. Just a slight advice.
nature, it seemed like we were a match made in heaven. So, when he came to pick me up on Valentine's Day, I was beyond excited. I remember waiting in my room, staring at the clock as it ticked closer and closer to 7 p.m. I was so nervous, I could barely sit still. Finally, there was a knock at my door. I leaped up to answer it, and there he was. He He was even more handsome in person. He had dark hair and piercing gray eyes. He was wearing a black leather jacket and jeans. He looked like he belonged in a motorcycle gang, but I didn't care. I still like bad boys.
Emily?
Yes, it's so nice to finally meet you, Nicholas. Come in, please.
I stepped aside to let him in,
You let him in your
my
house?
heart racing the entire time. I closed the door
That's
behind
crazy.
him, and then we just kind of stood there, staring at each other for a few awkward moments. As we stood there, I couldn't help but notice a strange tattoo on his neck. It looked like a prison number.
Whoa, that's a cool tattoo. What does it mean?
Although I was too absorbed at the moment to notice his discomfort, I did hear the shift in his voice as he answered.
Nothing. Just thought it was cool back in the day. Let's get out of here.
As we walked out of my dorm, he put his arm around me and I leaned into him. I felt so safe and comfortable with him. We walked to his
Crazy.
car, a black
Feeling safe
SUV, and
comfortable
got
with a
in.
stranger.
So, where are we going?
I thought we could go for a walk in the park. It's such a beautiful night outside.
I agreed, and we headed to the park. We walked and talked, and I told him all about myself. I told him about my family, my friends, and my hobbies. He listened intently, and I felt like he really cared about what I had to say. That's when I began to notice that the park was eerily empty. There wasn't a soul in sight.
Where is everyone? It's so quiet and empty.
He looked at me with a strange expression on his face, but he didn't answer. He just kept walking, his arm around my waist. We came to a stop in front of a large tree. This was when I began to feel really uneasy. I tried to take a step back, but he held me close. I looked up at him, and he was staring at me with an intensity that I can only describe as hunger. His piercing gray eyes had taken on an almost insane quality as he stared at me with them widened, and the red veins at the very edges of his eyes became more pronounced.
You gotta hit him with a
What's wrong?
what?
I tried to pull away, wanting to get out of there as quickly as possible. He didn't answer me, but his grip tightened. He just stared at me, his eyes drilling into mine. And then, without warning, he attacked me. Grabbing my throat, he began to choke me.
Oh,
I
no.
struggled against him, but I couldn't break free. I could feel my vision
him in the-
start to fade as
you
I
know?
gasped for air. Just when I thought I was going to pass out, he released me. I fell to the ground, coughing and gasping for air. He loomed over me, a sickening grin on his face, and that's when I saw it again. He grabbed his jacket and tossed it to the side. His prison number flashed in my mind as I saw what he had been wearing under his jacket, an orange jumpsuit.
You're an inmate!
He just laughed, a cold, maniac laugh that sent chills down my spine. Grabbing his face with his nails, he dug them into his skin and began to slowly scratch his face, starting from directly below his eyes till he reached his lips. As blood began to run down his face, he just kept laughing. I was in pure
get
terror
out
at
of
this
there.
point, and I scrambled to my feet and started to run, but he was too fast. He caught up to me and tackled me to the ground. I screamed as he began to choke me again. I thought for sure that this was it, that I was going to die. But then, just as suddenly as he had attacked me, he stopped. He got up and dusted himself off and looked down at me again. Finally, he spoke, and with each word, the blood from his face splattered down into my face.
Let's play a game, Emily. I escaped just so I could have some fun on Valentine's Day. Now, I'll
That's
give you 3
wild.
minutes. Try to make it out of the park before I catch you. But if I do catch you, you'll never be alone on Valentine's Day again.
Staring
You're gonna
at
be
me,
dead,
he
girl.
began to count down from 3.
Get up.
I struggled to my feet and began to run. I could hear him counting behind me as he stood there in the park with blood streaming from his face. As I glanced back, I saw what looked like a trail of blood following him as he slowly began to walk after me. I ran as fast as I could, but I knew he was going to catch me. There was no way I could outrun him.
3, 2, 1.
His voice stopped, and suddenly, I heard crazed footsteps pounding behind me as he began to run. I was
Run,
about to
you
give
mean
up.
chase you.
As I ran, my legs were seared with the cold pain of exercise such as this. Just as he was about to catch up to me, though, I saw a ranger's car drive into the park. I think they were there to close up for the night, but to this day, I still don't care.
Help me!
I ran toward them shouting as the man who had been chasing me darted into the bushes. I heard a scream of anger from his direction as he realized that he had lost me. The ranger got out of his car and ran toward me as I collapsed into his arms, sobbing and shaking uncontrollably.
What happened, miss? You're safe now.
Maybe I am, but they never found him. They never caught the man who had tried to kill me. And ever since that day, I've been terrified of being alone on Valentine's Day.
How didn't they catch him and he's an escapee from jail? That's crazy. This was a good one. I hope you enjoyed this Valentine's Day horror special. Join me next time and happy love day. Bye.